Today's story is about Stacy Peterson and Christie Marie Cales. Stacy had carried on with a horrendous youth, full of battling guardians, liquor misuse, viciousness, and disregard. Her mom appeared to be unequipped for doing anything with the exception of drinking an instance of lager every day and lying on the love seat, while the kids were left to battle for themselves. They had previously lost one kid in a house fire and afterward lost a child to SIDS later on. These misfortunes undoubtedly added to the unstable family and Stacy's mom's standard stays in both prison and mental clinics. Notwithstanding this, Stacy was all ready to remain on the correct way, and she moved on from secondary school right on time at only 16 years old. At the point when she was 17 of every 2001, she was working at a lodging as a work area representative when she met the man she would later wed, cop Drew Peterson. Stacy found in Drew the mentor she had never truly had and an opportunity at a safe life. The main kid they had together was a kid called Anthony, who was named after Stacy's dad. She was directly right at home in her job as spouse and mother, and she was a magnificent housewife. She accepted she had a decent marriage, presumably in light of the fact that she was youthful. Drew would call her continually when she went out, regardless of whether she was about to the supermarket. In 2004, Drew's ex Kathleen Savio was viewed as dead, evidently having had a mishap in the bath. Stacy rushed to safeguard her significant other against any charges that he had been behind the demise, and she even gave a justification to him. By then she had another kid, Lacey, who was named after her sister who died, so youthful Stacy had two youngsters to stress over and was frantic to hold the family together. At the point when Stacy was 23, following the deficiency of her sister Tina to malignant growth, she began to make changes in her day-to-day existence. She began to take the kids to Bible examinations, had taken on a task as an Avon salesman, and was by and large caring more for herself and her appearance. Yet, at this point Stacy had begun to address whether her better half had been associated with the passing of his significant other Kathleen. Upon the arrival of October 28, 2007, Stacy was intended to proceed to assist her sister with some artistic creation, yet she won't ever show up. She sent an instant message that Sunday morning at 10:15 saying she was not prepared to get up yet. In spite of this story, her family announced her missing, as they probably were aware she could never have done without her children. Loved ones additionally realize that Stacy had been making arrangements to leave Drew, so there was zero chance she would simply up and go without helping those plans through. While the specialists and various workers scoured the region for any hint of Stacy, Drew appeared to be treating it with very little concern. The night prior to her vanishing, Stacy had been spending time with her sister, Cassandra Cales, and had told her sister that assuming anything at any point happened to her, it was Drew that got it done. Cassandra frantically begged her sister to leave with her at that moment, yet Stacy said she was unable to leave the kids. Everything began with Drew showing up at Morphy's home and requesting that he go for a ride to a close-by park. Purportedly, Drew inquired as to whether he adored him enough to kill for him, to which Morphy answered no, he would not be able to live with himself. He then, at that point, drove them to a storage space and requested that Morphy lease a storage for him and told him assuming he put it in his own name, he would be paid $2,000. Expecting Drew was intending to store a body there, Morphy was worried that it would smell. It was at that very point Morphy realized Drew planned to kill somebody, yet he didn't understand it would be Stacy. At the point when they arrived at the recreation area, Morphy was given a wireless and told not to respond to it. The guest ID showed the calls were coming from Stacy's mobile phone, and he out of nowhere understood that Drew was positioning it to kill Stacy. After an hour, Drew returned, got Morphy, and reclaimed the cell. Morphy again advised Drew that he would have rather not been involved and that he needed to return home. Attracted couldn't get it down the steps all alone, so Morphy needed to help him. Regardless of not really helping with the homicide of Stacy, the way that he had been engaged with the dubious calls and had assisted with conveying the barrel which no doubt contained her body made such an excess of responsibility that the next day Morphy endeavored self-destruction. His significant other surged him to the medical clinic, and whenever he had recuperated, he was taken to the police by his sibling. His union with Vicky was going to pieces because of his disloyalties and controlling way of behaving, and they separated in 1992. Not long after the separation was settled, Kathleen and Drew were hitched. The marriage was not a cheerful one for extremely lengthy, and in 2002, Kathleen got a security request against her better half because of actual maltreatment. By 2003, Drew was associated with Stacy, and he and Kathleen separated. Nonetheless, the monetary issues of the marriage were rarely settled, and they were all the while attempting to come to an understanding in April 2004. There was no water in the bath, and there were a few wounds to her body. At this point, the doctor who played out the underlying post-mortem guaranteed it was an unintentional demise. He gathered that she had sneaked through the bath and hit her head, suffocating, and that was the reason for death. Stacy had confessed to no less than 3 individuals in the days, paving the way to her vanishing that she accepted Drew had killed Kathleen, so this allegation was treated exceptionally in a serious way. The front of her body was shrouded in wounds, and the outer layer of the tub was amazingly smooth, and there was nothing there that might have left those imprints. His last assurance was that Kathleen had been exposed to a fierce assault in no time before her passing, and that her demise was not a mishap by any means. Drew Peterson was viewed as liable and indicted for the main-degree murder of Kathleen and was condemned to 60 years in jail. In any case, that was not to destroy courts for Drew. Drew was charged of attempting to sort out a hit on the Will County State's Attorney James Glasgow in February 2015. This had come about following a time of Drew's exercises between September 2013 and December 2014, when he had been attempting to set up for the lawyer's homicide. Now that Drew had been viewed as at legitimate fault for the homicide of his ex Kathleen, the loved ones of Stacy Peterson started to push for additional examination concerning her vanishing. It appeared to be without a doubt that if he would kill one spouse to be freed of an apparent issue, then definitely it would be simple for him to do likewise to another wife. The marriage proceeded to weaken, and Christie had a propensity for vanishing at times for quite a long time. That very year, Anthony sought legal separation, unfit to adapt to Christie's way of behaving and the impacts on the family any longer. At first, Christie challenged the separation, however she more than once missed the trials, and Anthony was allowed full and sole authority of the kids. Christie moved in with other relatives, and in the end Anthony and the kids moved to Florida. In 1998, Christie went out conveying her book of scriptures and handbag and was at no point ever seen or heard from in the future. There were different observer explanations, with some colloquialism. Christie had said she planned to chapel, which would appear to be legit given the good book she was conveying, and others saying she was going out to shop. Notwithstanding, her little girls Stacy, Cassandra, and Tina all accepted she was killed, and they associated Christie's bow with being the executioner. It is so amusing and unfortunate that both mother and little girl would vanish, passing on loved ones, to think about whatever befallen them. One thing is without a doubt, both are probably going to have been killed. That's it for this time. See you with another true murder story.